Have you ever felt like time stood still, waiting for something that could change everything? Today we're going to explore the value of waiting and how it can be a preparation for something greater in your life. Imagine yourself in a waiting room, the clock ticking away each second as if it were an eternity. Have you ever felt that anxiety? That sensation that time just won't move forward? It's in that space of silence that God has taught me valuable lessons. What happens when everything you dream of seems distant, almost unattainable? Have you ever wondered if you're truly ready to receive it all at once? The truth is, often we desire what we are not prepared to handle. The delay is not a sign of failure, but rather a preparation. It's as if God is shaping our character, teaching us to value every step of the journey. While we wait, He is working within us, transforming anxiety into faith. Have you ever considered that this wait might actually be a hidden gift? When life feels stagnant, it's easy to lose hope. But what if I told you that it's precisely in this silence that God is preparing something great? Don't give up. Keep walking even when you can't hear His voice. Believe me, your time to blossom may be closer than you think. Now, let's also share what I've learned during moments of forced silence and how that can change your life. Sometimes I find myself pondering what it truly means to wait. Waiting can be agonizing, can't it? Life seems to pass by while I sit there, counting the days and hours, as if each second were an eternity. But upon reflection, I realize that this waiting is not just an empty void. It is a time that can lead to personal growth and preparation. It's as if God is silent, but it's not a meaningless silence. It's a space where we can develop and be shaped for what is to come. Often, waiting teaches me to appreciate what lies ahead. When I'm faced with something I deeply desire, I feel that even if everything seems stagnant, it's in that moment that I can dive deeper, learn, and prepare. Sometimes, what we need most is time to adjust, to become stronger and wiser individuals. This realization changes how I view waiting. Instead of something burdensome, it can become a time of discovery. It's interesting how, in silence, God seems to speak to us through everyday experiences. When I look back and see all that I've learned while waiting, I recognize that each lesson has made me stronger. Waiting teaches me patience and prevents me from rushing into decisions. And even if I don't understand what's happening, there is a peace that comes from knowing this time is not in vain. The feeling that God is distant during certain phases can be uncomfortable. But if we take a moment to think, waiting can be an invitation to turn inward. It's an opportunity to reflect on what really matters. In this process, we often discover parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. The challenges of waiting force us to confront our own vulnerabilities and find strength within them. Reflecting on my readiness to receive the blessings I ask from God, I realize that often we are not truly prepared. We ask, dream, and long for something, but are we ready to receive it? A gift, no matter how beautiful, can become a burden if we are not equipped to handle it. This makes me think about the importance of being in tune with what I truly desire and with what I am capable of managing. When I look at the things I have already received, I see that many of them came at moments when I was prepared. Yet, I can also recall times when a blessing arrived before I was ready. This brought a series of challenges that, had I prepared beforehand, I might have avoided. I learned that preparation is just as important as the act of receiving. On the other hand, the anxiety of wanting something quickly can lead us to accept gifts we're not ready to carry. Sometimes, I wonder if I should have waited a little longer, prepared better, before taking on responsibilities that initially seemed wonderful. This reflection helps me appreciate each phase of the process, to find meaning in the wait, and to understand that each stage is a learning experience. With this, I realize that prayer and seeking a deeper connection with God are fundamental in this preparation process. It is through prayer that I can align my heart and mind with His plans. When I engage in prayer, I feel that I'm not just preparing to receive, but also to act in accordance with what is best for me and for others. Thus, I understand that each blessing has its time and place. I am learning to trust that by preparing properly, I will not only be more able to receive what I desire but also to use those blessings wisely and responsibly. It's a cycle of growth that, even when it feels difficult, is essential for my spiritual and personal journey. Sometimes I find myself thinking about how challenging it is to continue the walk when the path seems foggy. We've all been there, haven't we? Those moments when uncertainty reigns and the answers we seek seem miles away. It's at this point that we need to remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. Trusting in God, even when we don't have all the directions, is an exercise of faith that strengthens us. It's like being on an unknown trail. With each step, each challenge, we are molded and prepared. And honestly, the beauty of this journey is that it offers us the chance to draw closer to God. When we seek His presence, even without understanding what lies ahead, we find comfort and direction. This requires a complete surrender, an act of trusting that even amidst chaos, He is there, guiding us with His invisible hand. Furthermore, it is essential to remember that God does not abandon us. He walks alongside us even when visibility is low. Sometimes all we need to do is take a small step of faith. It's a powerful reminder that our trust should be in Him and not in the circumstances surrounding us. Each step is an act of worship, a way of acknowledging that regardless of what happens, we are in His hands. Who hasn't felt renewed when they decided to keep moving forward? It's amazing how, even in the fog, we can find peace. Walking with God isn't about having all the answers but about the willingness to follow, even when we don't know where we're going. True trust is exercised in the most uncertain times, and that's when we discover how dependent we are on Him. Reflecting on God's timing, I realize it's a concept that often eludes us. We live in a society that values instant gratification, where everything must happen quickly. But divine wisdom teaches us that His timing is perfectly orchestrated. Every moment has its reason for being, even if we can't see it right away. Honestly, this can be a great source of comfort. How many times have I found myself impatient, waiting for answers that seem to never come? It's at this point that God's wisdom shines. He is always working in our hearts, preparing us for what is to come. What seems like a delay may actually be a time of maturation and transformation. I've learned that instead of complaining, it's wiser to seek to understand what this time is teaching me. God's timing isn't linear. He works in cycles and seasons. Just as trees don't bloom out of season, we too need to recognize that there is a right time for everything. Sometimes, it's easy to lose this perspective and feel discouraged. But when we remember that God is always at work, even when we don't see immediate results, we find the strength to wait. And it's in that waiting that we can discover a revealing aspect: preparation. God uses this time to shape us, refine our character, and strengthen our faith. When we finally receive what we've asked for, it's not just the blessing itself that matters, but the entire process that brought us there. It's as if each day of waiting was a step towards something grand. God's wisdom in His timing teaches us to slow down and trust. Waiting, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity to draw closer to Him and understand that His vision is much greater than ours. When we surrender to this process, we learn to dance to the rhythm of His orchestra, and that, in itself, is a blessing. When I think of patience and how waiting can be a test of faith, the story of David immediately comes to mind. From the moment the prophet Samuel anointed him as king to his coronation, David lived a journey that stretched over many years. He faced challenges, persecutions, and even moments of doubt, but he always maintained his trust in God. This journey reminds me that often, waiting is not a sign that we are being ignored but rather an opportunity for growth and preparation. David, for instance, had to deal with rejection and betrayal, especially when he was being hunted by Saul. Imagine the frustration and insecurity he must have felt. Yet, even in those tough circumstances, David did not lose faith. He took refuge in God, wrote psalms, and sought understanding and comfort in His presence. This makes me reflect on how, in moments of difficulty, we should turn to God and find strength in prayer and meditation. Another fascinating aspect of David's life is his capacity to wait. He had the opportunity to kill Saul, who was pursuing him, but he chose to spare him. This decision was not just a demonstration of compassion but also a clear indication that David understood God's timing was more important than his own will. Often we, like David, face moments where we can choose to act quickly, but wisdom lies in waiting for the right moment, in accordance with divine guidance. And what about the promises David received? The wait for the fulfillment of those promises was long and filled with trials. However, he never lost hope. He believed that God would fulfill what He had promised. This unwavering faith is a powerful example for us. Sometimes, things don't happen the way we envision or within the timeline we desire, but that doesn't mean we should give up. David's perseverance in believing God's promises truly inspires me to stay strong on my own journey. David's story teaches us that patience is a virtue, especially when it comes to trusting God. We can be assured that even when waiting seems endless, God is shaping us, preparing us for something greater. And just like David, we can look to the future with hope, knowing that the fulfillment of God's promises, even if it takes time, will always be better than we could imagine. So everyone, we've reached the end of another video and I want you to take a moment to reflect. What have you learned about waiting? Have you noticed that every second we spend in anticipation can be a time of preparation? Remember, God isn't just delaying, He's shaping you for something grand. Now, I want you to think, what are your dreams that are still sitting on the shelf? What are you willing to do to make them a reality? Sometimes, the answer lies in taking the first step, even if we don't understand the entire path. And what if I told you that your journey is just as important as the destination? So, while you wait, why not use this time to improve yourself? To read, learn, and grow? Because believe me, every little action counts. And if your prayers haven't been answered yet, know that God is working behind the scenes, preparing the best for you. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Share your experience and let us know what you thought about this topic. And be sure to check out the other 2 videos that will be appearing on the screen, which will help you understand even more about this and other important subjects. Until next time, remember, waiting is part of the process and it can be beautiful if you know how to see it.